Hi, everybody. We're on the final week, and I want to thank you all for being in this class. I know it was very difficult because there were so few of us, but we got through it, and here we are, week number 6. And week number 6 is a little different, so I wanted to make sure that I went over that with you. So now we're going to be looking at the discussion is going to be the nature of criminal justice policy. So when we look at who makes policy, who are those people that make policies? Typically men. 75-25 is the typical ratio. And so are they really taking into what women need? When I sat there and I looked at the statistics of women that were in prison, 86% of them, that was a study that came out through the United Nations on drug curtailing, and it said that 86% of women that were in jail had been sexually assaulted as either a child or physically abused as a child or an adult. And I'm thinking, okay, what would happen if we looked at our policy differently and we dealt with what the causation was and then fix that problem and then move forward? But that doesn't happen. Um, you do see like the victim programs have somewhat moved forward, and that's because money is put into those through the you know, through the courts, and it continues to go through. But still, we're not seeing a lot of programs that are very gender specific. When I say gender specific programs that have been out there, um, the government will put out programs, they'll make programs, and they'll make policy, and they'll make changes, and they'll put money. They'll put a lot of money into things that sometimes make no sense. So, one of the things that makes no sense to me is they had the DARE. Now, that was just like we're gonna regurgitate, throw this out there, this DARE program that showed it didn't work because it really didn't do what it should have done. Then they went to community policing, which really was a great program, and a lot of money was put into that. But what ended up happening with there is it started to go to be more militaristic, and that kind of backfired as we're seeing in the recent couple of years. But let's take a look at what state statutes can happen, and a lot of that can happen through money, through the Victims of Crime Act or the state's Intimate Partner Violence Statute. And very often our victims, who then end up in jail for other things, um, don't even know that there's money out there to help them. So when you're looking at your policies, when you're looking at the question this week, and the question is that you're going to be asked, the discussion: explore different reasons why a gendered perspective on criminal justice policy is important for female offenders and female crime victims. Remembering that 86% in jail had been a victim of domestic violence or sexual assault. That's a huge number. The next part we go to is going to be the paper, and this is where it's different, and I know you guys are going to be so happy about this, because prior to this class, the paper had to be 6 to 8 pages. Well, this is 4 to 5 pages, and it's worth 100 points. So that hasn't changed. So every week, these papers are actually probably worth a little bit more than 100 points towards your final grade. So our paper this week is going to, what are the challenges? Why are there challenges? And how can we, work with those? So research future challenges criminal justice will face in the future. We are facing huge challenges now. We're looking at police reform, and there needs to be reform. People clearly have said there needs to be reform. There needs to be trust put back in the police. So how do we do that? And that's what I want to hear from you, is how are we going to do that? And how are we going to, what are the challenges going to be to get there? And, when they say defund the police, do they mean defund the police, or do they mean to rechange, where the money's going to go? When you listen to the Democrats are saying we need to refocus where the money's going, but definitely not defund, and put more money in there for our education. And we have to look at the role of criminal justice professionals in the future. It's still a brass ceiling. You know what they mean by brass ceiling? Because typically when they say that somebody has brass, it's a badge that it makes them, somebody's boss. So that brass ceiling is still there, and it's pretty prevalent, and women are still facing problems and moving forward and being accepted. I mean, in Massachusetts, only in the last 15 years did they have to fight to have the requirements changed for the academy. They made it impossible for women to pass. In fact, for almost 3 years, not one single woman on the Boston Police Department passed the physical agility test, because in all honesty, How easy is it to climb, to jump over a 5 foot wall? And I have to tell you, my 32 years as a career police officer, once did somebody jump over the wall. And the good thing was I was smart enough to say, he's going to jump the wall, and an officer was on the other side, because guess who was not going over that wall? Me. So, but for some reason, the policy was that everybody had to pass this wonderful, physical fitness, standard that really they should have made them pass the communication skills challenge. That would have been the number one role the number one thing they should have done. So when we look at this, we're going to say, how can we explore the role of female criminal justice professionals and leaders will play in mitigating the challenges you examined? I'm going to give you a little hint here. Women are better communicators on police departments, and they can help police departments communicate to the communities they reside in and say, look, we're all in this together. We need to work together, and where the money should go. And if we're looking at 86% of women that are in jail because of being sexually assaulted or physically beaten or domestic violence, then maybe we should be saying, as a police department, we need to be involved in that reform and how we can get, some domestic violence coordinators out there, some sexual assault investigators out there, some sexual assault groups. There used to be them an awful lot during when we had community corrections. There was a lot of money put into group sessions for sexual assault victims. Try and find those now. You can't. So I want you to examine the significance of women's involvement in criminal justice policy development. And I want you to see how they implement it in the evaluation and how is that going to affect us. So that's a pretty daunting task, but I know you're up to it. If you have any questions, I want to remind you, you have to have 2 sources, and you have to have 4 to 5 pages, and you have to have your paper into me by Monday because I have to have my grades in. If you need any help, please feel free to call me. Thanks. Bye-bye. Best of luck to you.